Hey friends, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. Where else? Super cool treat for you today. Got another interview with my buddy Joe Carrell, a super talented Dove Award winning, Grammy nominated mixer out of Nashville. We're going to talk about how to push you forward in your career. How can you advance in your career, whether you want to be a mixer, a producer, an artist, or anything else really that involves human beings. The things we're talking about today have to do with human nature, which is why I love them, because they transcend your niche. So Joe's been on the channel before. We've talked about mixing. But today I wanted to pull back the curtain on what he's seen that works in his 18 plus years of doing music in the studio with interns, seeing people come in and out of audio school, seeing people rise to the top and people fall by the wayside. What separates successful people in this business from unsuccessful people in this business? This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And in this interview, we unpack a lot of really simple, which I love, but profound things because most people aren't doing them. One of the things Joe talks about is how you can get people to actually want you to succeed. What does it take to make those people actually want to fight for you in your career? He also talks about how people with less talent can get more opportunities than those with more talent. Now, this is super encouraging for people like me who are not the most talented person in the room. And finally, we talk about something that I call the wide net strategy for really advancing your career in the early years. Joe is a super gracious person to spend some time with me talking through these issues. I think you're really going to enjoy him and really going to get a lot out of this interview. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with my friend, Joe Carrell. All right, friends, here with Joe Carrell, and I'm excited about this conversation because we're going to go over things to help you with your music career, whether you want to intern, whether you want to work in a studio, whether you just want to produce your own music and interact with other bands and labels, or independently produce your music. At some point, you're going to have to interact with human beings. And what we're going to talk about today is going to work. And Joe knows because Joe has been doing this for over 18 years professionally, full time. He mixes. That's his main thing. And the dude's, we were just talking about it before the call. He's Grammy nominated, Dove Award winning. He's done all kinds of country stuff, a lot of the Christian, Jeremy Camp, 1,000 Foot Crutch, Michael W. Smith, all kinds of people in the Christian music scene. He's been doing this for a long time. We've had him on the channel before, a couple of times talking about mixing and how he mixes in the box. But we wanted to talk more about the career side. How do you progress in your career? Because a lot of you are doing that. I get these questions more and more. How do I progress in my career? We talked about it on the YouTube channel recently. And so, Joe, I want to quickly thank you for wanting to jump on the channel and hanging out with us. And I'm excited to have this conversation, man.
Yeah, man. Me too. Been too long since we talked.
It has been a while because I remember the first one was a long time ago. And then we did a follow-up because you got so many questions on all the stuff we talked about, which was great. And you were so kind to jump in there. So if y'all haven't seen those interviews, they're a little old, but the information is amazing. So, Joe, you reached out to me. We had this conversation because you have interns. You've been around the block. You interact with a lot of people coming out of audio school. They want to do what you do. You've seen the gamut of people, but can you just sort of paint the picture of why is this even a necessary conversation?
Yeah, Graham. These there's so many audio schools and programs out there right now. Some of these, anything from the Full Sail, the conservatory, all the way to these, like courses that just last a couple weeks. Things like that. Mix with the masters. People. I get hit up a lot anymore for people wanting even just to sit with me for one day, or can I sit with you for a week or something like that. And how many of these kids, whether it's they've invested nothing but money in their gear or whether a lot of money in schooling, they want, what I have. And so I have a soft heart towards them because that's the same dreams, and aspirations that I had 20 years ago. So not all of them are going to succeed. There's just not, for the people that wanted to follow my path, because there's not as many opportunities as there are people that want in it. So I got to thinking one day about some of these kids that I have had either intern for me personally or intern for studios that I worked at a lot, had residents in, and how many of them after their internship went back home and I never heard, maybe I liked the kid, but I never heard from them again, never seen their face again. And a lot of them I know for a fact, maybe because I followed them on Facebook or something, never, their career never happened. So I got to thinking about, because I got the same question you do. How? Why can I? What will set me apart? How can I succeed in this business? So I kind of put together a list one day for our mutual friend Kevin Ward. Me and him had this discussion for his mix coach website, and so I wrote down the list. And not only some of the things are engineering perspective, specific to my career path, but these things, they work for everything. I mean, a lot of your people are want to do what I do, but there's probably a lot of them that are artists, and I mean, they're at all different skill levels, and some of them are probably new to it. Some have been in it for 5, 10 years, whatever the case may be. And really, at the end of the day, what it boils down to is being likable, having people want to see you succeed. And so I came up with this list of things that you can do to kind of, put you in the right, people see you in the right light to want to see you succeed. Because whether it's doing what I do, whether it's being successful in publishing or label management, artist management, as an artist yourself, it's kind of all the same stuff. It really is.
Because you're dealing with people, and what you just said is huge. I mean, you need to be likable.
Oh, that is the big number one. Rule number two is rule number one.
But I think some people either love that answer or hate that answer, because if you hate that answer, or if your heart goes, what does that have to do with me? Shouldn't it be all about talent and skill? And I don't know if it should, but we're dealing with humans, and humans like to deal with humans that they like.
Yes.
So, man, that's a huge piece of this. And when people say like it's a good old boy system or buddy buddy, or it's who it's every industry, every business revolves around people who do business or do stuff with people they like. So you might as well get used to trying to be a little more likable. I think it'll only benefit you. It probably takes a little bit more humility to say, okay, am I not that likable? Why is that? And it's not that you have to change your whole personality. It's just a few of these things that I think are sort of timeless that you're going to share. But I just want people to sort of key in on, you can do these things. There's simple things that Joe's going to share. And please, when people listen to this, don't overlook whatever Joe's going to share, because some of them are very simple, but a lot of people just don't do them. And
that's true.
So easy to do. It's sad that people wouldn't do them. So do you want to walk through sort of what you think are the go-to heavy hitters that people should pay attention to?
Man, absolutely. I've got 5 or 6 things that were on my list, as far as like people before they really even get in the business professionally, as far as before they come to Nashville. Maybe they're in a full sale right now, right?
Okay.
Or something like that. And before they even serve their internship and go in, move to LA, Nashville, Austin, Atlanta, New York, whatever the case may be, with these things in mind. But again, I think it's applicable even outside of that realm. Number one is literally be on time. I mean, that sounds so simple. That's so elementary, but you set it up for me so well a while ago. Not everybody does these simple things. And so sometimes the easiest little things set you apart from the crowd. And it's going to be the difference in between you getting the job or, asked to stick around versus the other kid, that shows up 10 minutes late or 5 minutes late. Even if it's just a couple times. Be in the parking lot 15 minutes early, for your internship or whatever. If it's one of your students that's an artist, and they have some meetings, on some live dates or local dates, man, be there, be there on time. Just so easy. And here's another one, Grant, and I had a little blowback on this, but not too much. That's dress for success. I think a lot of people get in the music business because we're cool, right? So we can dress however we want to. If our hair can be 6 different colors if we want it to, right? And touching the floor. And that's true in some situations, but not all. And, like for what I do personally on the studio side, you really, I see that hurt some kids. I have seen kids that are committed. They show up on time. They have good people skills and everything else. Be real honest, not get the job just because of some crazy hair colors and stuff. And that doesn't make them a bad person, Graham, at all. But maybe that studio has a clientele that, part of their clientele, at least, that wouldn't necessarily like it, or you know what I mean? It's just maybe they're not as comfortable with it. So, just simply wearing decent, clean clothes. And it doesn't mean you can't wear your Beatles T-shirt, but man, make sure it's washed and it doesn't stink. It's
Well,
just easy, easy stuff.
this is huge because I think some people will jump on this and be like, that's a horrible thing to say. Like, why should it matter what I wear? And I think that again goes back to you're seeing the world from your perspective, and you got to stop seeing the world from your perspective because you are not the
Yeah,
rest of the world. If you want to be where someone else is, you have to see what context do they require or they like and fit into that. And I think I know my generation, the millennials, struggled wanting to fit into anything. We want to do our own thing, and that's great. I think there's elements of that are really, really great. I think that's why our generation might be able to do a lot of really innovative things because we want to just push the boundaries. But
right.
at some point, you have to understand like we're not the end all be all. If I wanted to work in a really nice, expensive, fancy restaurant because the tips are a lot higher and I'll make more money if I'm going to wait tables there, I can't just show up with my hair colored the way I want and the clothes I want to wear. I have to wear what they want me to wear for, like you said, their clientele.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you're smart and you want the reward, you understand that you play that game and you're not sacrificing. You're not like putting yourself down and submitting to them in a negative way. You're smart. You're playing the game because it's not your restaurant. And so
right.
I just want people to notice like the maturity comes in here where if you want to progress in your career and you're going to play with certain cats that are at a different level than you or in certain contexts that you're not used to, do a little bit of research and find out what they wear, what the sort of the social norms are, how to interact. Do your research and don't just be yourself and assume they're going to like you. They're going to like you, the real you, but you have to still fit into a context with which they'll accept you. And not everyone likes that advice, but it's the way the world
It's
works.
it's true. Yeah, I said, I done that video I done for Kevin. I'll say it here: if having your latest face tattoo or tattoo, the word hate written across your knuckles is more important than a potential career, then maybe that career path isn't meant for you. And I know, and that sounds like an old guy thing to say. Man, he just don't get it. I do. I'm a musician too. I mean, I grew up, wanting to look like all my favorite members of Motley Crue or whatever. But I mean, like you said, it's common sense. Just do your homework and find out that what those people want and expect, and it's worth giving up. Whatever hairstyle you want, even if it's just temporary, to get your foot in the door of a business that you dream about. Let me give you another one, and this is the biggest one for me, Graham, and this is where I get the most blowback, and it's from people that just have the complete wrong mindset, and they really need to flip this, and that is be a servant. There is nothing bigger than that. A lot of people, like me, most of us that succeed in this business were big fish in a small pond at one time. Wherever we came from in the country, we were the best guitar player, we were the best singer, we were the best drummer, engineer or whatever. And when you come to a big, music mecca city like this, first of all, it's very humbling. You realize that, oh my gosh, I'm not as high on that ladder as I thought. But in order to stick around, there's nothing you can do that's more important. Nothing. Your mixing chops, your playing, nothing is more important than just simple things like opening the door for people. I don't care if it's a guy or if it's a girl, if they're old, if they're young, unattractive, attractive, doesn't matter. In my video for Kevin, I talked about helping every guitar player with their guitars in and out, before sessions, after sessions. If it's raining, hold the umbrella over their amplifiers so that amplifiers don't get wet, even if it means you get drenched. Making sure everybody has coffee. There's coffee always made. Um, Something that I've had kids do for me, and that I really hits home is mixing. And maybe there's a producer's station right behind you or a table beside you. You chug a bottle of water and you lay it there, and you're right back focused. Is you notice that kid grabs the bottle of water, throws it away, and brings it back, brings a fresh one back, sets it in that same spot, never says a word. They don't, they're not looking for, right? But who gets, if I've got two kids sitting in the room with me that day watching me, who's going to get my attention? It's like, wow, they get it, because that's the stuff I did early in my career. I think that has really given me a shot to stick around and progress, all these years. that is if there's one biggest one, it's be a servant to people, because they're gonna notice that, and they're gonna like you and want to see you succeed.
Oh, that's so huge. I talked about this on a video recently, and we were talking about this before. Is serving people is the secret to anything you want to do.
Mm,
And my entire career and every opportunity have ever gotten was from trying to focus on what other people need, what would they want, how can I make their day a little better, their life a little better. Even if you're trying to do collaborations or you're trying to partner on something, you always have to see what is the win for them. Instead of looking at make sure it's 50-50 and I get what I need in this deal, like what is it that they're looking for in this deal, and how can I even pitch it to them from their perspective. Like, look, if we do this, this is what it's going to get you. They're like, oh, that does sound nice. They'll be even more apt to want to do it because you're seeing it from their
yeah,
point of view. That's like a whole nother skill set that if you can like see things from their point of view and just do things for them, it makes a huge, huge difference. And what you said is critical is that there's going to be people who are maybe more talented than you on a skill level, but that's not the way the world works. They don't get the job just because they're the most talented.
not at all.
There are singers that are more talented than singers on the radio today, but maybe those singers are just not really good people to work with, or they're really, really cocky, or they're just really hard to be around. There might be a reason why they're not getting work. And it's not because of the skill level, it's because the likability factor or the servant factor. And this is great because you don't have, this is good for people like me. I don't have to be the best skill
Mm,
wise, but if I can be someone that's likable and they like having me around and they feel like I'm an asset to them, I get opportunities that someone who's more skilled than me maybe wouldn't get. So I'm grateful for this being true because it helps someone like me
yeah.
get a foot in the door.
Yeah. I have a list. I'm not going to name the names, but I have a list of names of stars. I mean, some of the best singers you will have ever heard in your life, but you've never heard them in your life because Nashville chewed them up and spit them out because they were jerks. They thought the world owed them something because listen to this. I mean, take it in. Look at me, how handsome I am, or what, whatever. But the powers that be, the labels didn't like them. I mean, they were difficult to get along with, arrogant and everything else. They didn't get the gig, and then they're not on the radio to this day, even though they were better than whoever. And that's just a real biggie. And here is the thing: I think all of us, whether it's an instrument we play, and I know, but based on what I do for a living, and what I know your website caters to is people that are mixing and recording. We all want to be the best, right? Every one of us want to be, able to look back one day and say, I had, this award, I have that award, I had this many number ones on the radio, all that kind of stuff. Meaning you are one of the best, right? But the only way to stick around the talent pool that already is the best long enough in order to learn that skill set and become the best. You ever want to become the best? You ever want to get to the level of a Manny or whoever, some of these people that I still even admire. It's because you hang around this town long enough to become to get to that level. People hiring you even when your skills aren't quite there yet, but they just doggone like you. And letting you sit in their mix room for a week just because they like having you around. Watch me work, steal some of these tips, steal some of these tricks. You want to be the best. You being a servant and being a likable guy is going to go a long way to getting there. That sounded well. That doesn't make sense, but think about it, guys. It'll settle in. It'll kick in.
Oh, that was huge what you said too, because success in anything takes time. And like
Yeah.
you just really, most people can't shortcut the process. And what you just said was so brilliant, Joe, is that in order to endure long enough to get the shots that you finally need to get good enough to meet enough people, you have to be likable. and
Mhm.
and that's so huge because so many opportunities, we want opportunities to come right away. If I did my internship or I learned how to mix, I learned from Graham, I learned from Joe, I'm ready to go get a gig, or my band put out their first album. How come no one's banging down the door to throw money in my face or put me on TV? It's maybe not that it's not good. It's just that careers usually take a long time.
Yeah.
And we focus on the flash in the pans, people that blew up really quickly, because that's more interesting, I think. But that's not most people. It takes a long time to endure. But most people, like you said, they won't get a chance to endure at whatever it is they're doing if you're not really that likable, or if everyone thinks you just really are out for yourself.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, it is true. All your watchers, their favorite mixers, there's probably not a one of them that have less than 10 years in this business. Most of them 15 or 20 or even more. That means they've endured, they've been around for a long time. It may not apply to people that are artists, but people that want to do this mixing thing or this recording thing, um, is not turning down, work based on genre preferences. Early on, there can be so few, opportunities can be very few and far in between. So having, maybe you already know, that if your dream was to 100% come true, that it would be that you're mixing nothing but bluegrass, right? You're mixing nothing but hip hop. You're mixing nothing but whatever the case may be. A lot of times when we're young, I know I was. You probably were too. You're a little closed-minded sometimes, genre-wise, and most all of us grow out of that. In fact, if there's anything that I would say about this today's generation of young people, it's sometimes they're more open-minded than any generation I've seen. Because I mean, they listen to everything from the Beatles to you know what I mean. But for some of those you that aren't that open-minded yet, don't turn down an early job because it is in a genre that you don't really like much. Maybe you really want to do nothing but country, but this is hip hop or whatever the case may be. Um, do that job and hit a home run. I mean, do your very best job, because that jobs is what leads to jobs. Every gig, gig number two comes from gig number one. Gig number three comes from gig number two. So don't turn down opportunities. As your career grows, you'll have opportunities to get into the specific field genre wise that you want to. Doors will open and stuff as you've been around town long enough, your name gets known. But don't take a chance on turning down an early job just because it's a genre you didn't really like, and that could have been the thing that opened the door to actually having a career, whether that's full-time or part-time or whatever, versus selling lumber at Lowe's because you never had the chance.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. Things beget other things, jobs beget other jobs, and you have to start. And you're early on too. We're all still getting better, so you can get
Hmm.
better no matter what you're mixing. You can get better no matter what the talent is. It may not be your favorite song, but you're working on your thing and honing your skills, and also people skills and learning the business. So some people watching this might just do like remote mixing or remote producing or mastering for people. So they're not actually in a big city with lots of other people, but they're still building their chops, building their brand, connecting with
Yeah.
musicians, connecting with bands. And I mean, I've mixed all kinds of stuff. I think you kind of need to figure out what your wheelhouse is going to be. And sometimes you don't know that yet either. So you almost have to take a lot of different music to figure out, yeah, I grew up listening to rock, but I'm actually an amazing hip hop mixer or whatever it might be. Like that might become your
Yeah.
thing. So you wouldn't know that unless you try a lot of things. And so, yeah, at the beginning of your career, I would agree. You cast a wide net to try things. A, you get cool
Yeah.
connections that will last you forever. But then B, you learn what your sweet spot is.
Mhm.
So I'm all about people being open minded. I love that concept.
Another one is, and this is a really big one for the generation that, the 20 somethings that are trying to break in this business now, is put your phone down. That is so big. I mean, yes, we have to use social media and stuff like that wisely to have our career grow. If we are working with, superstar A one day, sure, we want that posted. We want people to know we're relevant. But but for the most part, the younger people nowadays, because I have them here in the studio with me. So it's like nothing is more important at any moment. What I'm doing, if they're trying to learn from me, or they're trying to watch me mix something of even maybe it's their own song or whatever. Is that Snapchat seems to be more important than anything else. I mean, there are kids that will maybe spend quite a bit of money at a place like the conservatory or Full Sail or whatever, Blackbird Academy, that will never get their shot because they just don't know to put their phone down. So people, like me, that's on the other side of 40 now, that are the people that are managing studios, have our own successful mixing business or recording business or whatever the case may be. We're from a generation, I mean, yes, to some degree, we hold your career in our hands because we're the ones that can, make, give you the shots you need to grow and excel. And that's not an attractive thing for us. You know what I mean? we see that and we know that that means that not enough attention is being given to what's going on in the room. There's every I've never been in a recording session, I've never had a day where at some point I couldn't update my status if I wanted to. I'm not saying that your phone has to be left at home, but what I'm saying, there's a lot of times of the day where it should not be out and visible to people that's in, even if you're an intern and sitting on the couch in the back room observing and just being there for when somebody says, hey man, such and such needs a decaf, whatever the case may be. Sit there attentively the whole time, and don't let them see you, struggling to keep your attention on what's going on in the room. Look like you're hungry to learn and eager to serve.
Oh yeah, that's a whole new thing that didn't even exist when I was going to school and
Yeah.
interning. Like no one had smartphones, uh, so it's harder now because we've all grown accustomed to it. But it's still so rude. I don't care how socially acceptable it is. Like when you're ready to work, it's like going to work. It's
Hmm.
like being in an office, in a corporate office, and your boss is like, "Please don't play on your phone. Like, do work." Even if you're,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, I got to put my phone away. But in the studio, it's just because it's chill and fun, and there's a sofa and there's music playing. Especially if you're trying
Yeah.
to break into the business, it's work. So put the
Yeah.
phone away, um, because it communicates, like you said, that you'd rather be somewhere else, or there's something more important going on. Or,
Yeah.
but I don't
I-
know the phone thing, because I get into conversations with like even my peers, and I want them to put the phone away when they're talking to me. I'm like, dude, are we hanging out or are we not hanging out? Like, just
right. Right.
like,
Yeah.
can I throw your
Yeah.
phone to the? But and they disagree. They're like, bro, this is like, what are you talking about? I mean, I am hanging out with you. And it's like, so it's not that maybe I'm just getting old too. But I'm like, dude, if we're gonna hang out, let's do it. If we're not, that's fine. Let's just not. So
Yeah.
where are we going to
Yeah.
choose to be? And I think you're absolutely right. There's a time and place. So put the phone away for a little bit if you want to progress.
Yeah, it's up to you, really. I mean, the power. I said the power is in my hands, or people like me, but it's really in your hands. In large part as well. I'll tell just a quick story. I, there's a studio, and it's like a block over from where I'm at right now, that I used to cut a lot of tracks, and I had a project I was producing, and so I was engineering, the sounds, running the console for the room, as well as running the cues and trying to produce. So my hands were really, really full. There's no, on days like that, I never need a good assistant more than on days like that. In fact, at that studio, I have a great assistant that when I worked there, tremendous. Hey Lee, if you're watching, but he wasn't available that day. They had another kid that had been there. I mean, he'd been there a few months. He was one of the very fortunate kids that comes out of an internship and actually lands a staff position. So he, at some point, convinced him he was the right guy. Um, but the day that I was working with him, he was more concerned about texting his peeps on a day when I needed every ounce of help I could get. Because he was basically my tape op and just kind of, there to have my back, and the tape opping was going, tediously slow at times. When I had a room full of highly paid, all-star Nashville, stud musicians in the room, I went in the studio manager's office the next day. I mean, I made it clear to the kid that I wasn't very happy, but it was what it was. I went in the studio manager's office the next day and said, I won't work with that kid again. He said, "Man," he said, "that's the third you're the third person." He says, I got to cut him loose. The next week, that kid didn't have a job. All that money invested into schooling got through his internship, which is already puts him in rare air. Lost his job after a couple months because he couldn't stay focused in the studio. I know that sounds hard. That sounds harsh. It's like, Joe, why would you do that? He doesn't need to be in LA or Nashville or whatever. We need people that are committed to everything that we are doing, because and this is another one that's on my list. And so let me just go ahead and say that you got to make the guy above you look good. That's how our career works. You're never going to advance if the person above you doesn't look great, because as their career goes up, your career is going up too, whether it's underneath them or parallel to them, whatever the case may be. A great assistant, if you are lucky enough to land a staff position at a studio, which is hard. That's hard work, guys. It really is. Those guys earn every dime they get, many times over. But if every time I walk into a studio or anybody like me, and I'm the hired gun tracking engineer. I'm trying to make the room sound great, get great sounds to tape, all that kind of stuff. I'm only as good as my assistant. because we're going in rooms that, has this model of Neve, this model of API, this model of SSL, maybe no console at all. But we really rely on that guy that's there all day, every day, that knows that room inside and out, to help to make us do what we do, efficient. And a great assistant makes me look great. So I want to see that guy. It's like, hey, nice job, buddy. I hope your career, blossoms, and I'll do anything I can to make sure it does. And me, I make a producer look great. You know what I mean? That producer makes the artist look great, or the A&R guy at the label look great. It's never ending. Have your name on that list of hot to watch guys. And the only way to do that is by making the next guy above you look fantastic. Put every effort you can into making him look great, and it's going to shine the light right on you, right on you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll use myself as an example of who did not do this well. One of my first jobs, actually, as an audio engineer for a software company, we did voiceover talent and all that kind of stuff. I was in a group of like maybe 6 or 7 engineers. We were tracking stuff for the software all the time. And technically, I was the most skilled engineer there. And I felt really cocky because I felt like I was above the job and it was a stupid job. And that was my first problem. And there was a guy that was not as experienced as me, who worked hard, did the same thing I did, and he started to get promoted to be like the assistant to the producers on some of the projects. So it wasn't an audio job anymore, but he was getting paid more and was getting brought into bigger meetings with some of the bigwigs of the company, and ended up flying to Dubai and other places to assist these projects and just sort of moving up the chain. And I remember thinking one day, why is Todd getting all these gigs? Like, I'm way better than him. I've been here longer than him.
Yeah.
They know that. I'm Graham, like that's what I was thinking. And I remember doing some digging because it really bugged me. I went to my manager and kind of like asked him without trying to ask him. My manager's like, well, dude, Todd stayed late a bunch of nights and asked me what I needed help with. And at the time I was struggling with this one project I was behind on, and I unloaded a bunch of my stuff to him, and he did all this extra stuff that he wasn't getting paid for, made me finish my project on time, made me look good. So I rewarded him. And that's basically Todd's strategy, was making his superior look better by what can I do to help you? What can I do to serve you? And dude, he's been promoted 3 or 4 times. Now, granted, I feel like I found work that's more in line with what I meant to do, but I was so frustrated. I was like, I'm better than him. But actually, he was smarter than me because he was making the guy above him look good. And I just missed out on that opportunity.
That's the way this world works. The music business is no exception, guys. You have to care about the people ahead of you, and put every effort into making them look great.
I mean, I think the theme here from the first point to this last one is, for one moment, just think about someone other than yourself. I mean, this is the theme of what everything you're saying, Joe, is if you want to see success, you have to find a way to see the world from other people's perspectives and not be so concerned about you getting ahead as much as what can you do to serve others so that they get ahead. You will be rewarded. You said something off the call about if you take care of them, like your career will be taken care of. And
it's true.
I think that's hard for some people to hear, and they go, because it means relinquishing control. And we like control, like if I can make my career pop. But actually, if you want to control something, serve the heck out of people. That if that's the only thing you really can control, you get opportunities that you can't manufacture that way. And it goes back even to serving the up and coming person. If you do find success, that's still a very selfless thing to do, because if you become successful, I guess you could just sit back and say, yeah, I did it. I achieved it. It's all about me. You don't need to sew back into anybody else. There's no one making you do that. It's actually a very selfless thing to think about that. But I think that's the beauty of it. It sort of completes that virtuous cycle of generosity and serving others. It's always the better way. It's always what makes things pop. It's how the music industry works. It's how every industry I know works, because it's human nature.
It's true. It's true. It's some of your kids, because I've had some blowback, in private messaging and stuff from the video that I did on this subject, and it's all mindset. The people that blow back, that just can't they can't comprehend how putting somebody else first helps them. Guys, you're just going to have to take it from somebody that's had 18 years of success. I'm trying to help you by telling you this. I want to, and Graham too. I mean, we're sharing this with you because it's factual. It's the truth. And even though it may mean a paradigm shift, you may have to really sit and think about, no, wait a minute, this is going to be hard, you know, because I'm used to taking care of, I'm number one, right? Taking not everybody's nature to serve others, but if you will do that, if you will look for every opportunity, even if it's hard and you think, oh man, this stinks, you're going to be rewarded for it. Your career will start unfolding. And here's the thing, and you know this, Graham. As you start doing more of that, you like it. It kind of changes some other aspects of your life. You're not just doing it anymore to advance your career. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do and it feels good. And boom, you just start taking more and more steps up that ladder. As a result, it takes care of itself.
No, I love it. This has been awesome. I mean, and everyone who's watching this, like Joe's taking time out of his day to to just help you. Like he doesn't get anything out of this. He genuinely is trying to help me and my audience, which is you who's watching this, do something in your career. This is why I make videos, not just to entertain you, not just for fun,
Mm.
because I want to impact you. And Joe wants to do the same thing. Like if we can help you do what it is you're meant to do on this planet and do it well and do it in a way that serves other people, then everybody wins. So please listen to what Joe's saying. He's got the wisdom, he's got the experience. And if this is new stuff for you, process it. If it's not new, let this reinforce some helpful things in your mind that, like, yeah, this really is how it works. Good guys win. I know
Yeah.
we show a lot of the opposite being the truth, but long term, good wins, selflessness wins, generosity wins. So I would definitely encourage you to listen to what Joe's saying. And Joe, I appreciate the time, man. This is really generous of you.
Well, glad to do it, man. I have a heart for these guys.
I know you do. You have since we've done our first interview, man. If people wanted to find you online, is it still Mojo Mix?
Yeah, I would love them to look me up on Facebook. My personal page is almost. I mean, I've already got more.
Oh, right, they max you out.
I'm almost to 5,000. So don't look up that, guys, because I probably can't accept it. But yeah, MoJoeMix.
Cool. I'll put it on the screen.
On Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and because I am trying to do. I think something that's missing from our industry, Graham, is veterans, successful veterans serving, as the mentorship that I had when I sat under an established engineer as an apprentice, intern. There's a lot of guys are coming out of these schools or even, never had the schooling and kind of miss just the what I used to have conversations I used to have over lunch. I learned as much over lunch with Bobby Bradley as I did with console settings, just, life advice, career advice. So I'm trying to take time out of my day every couple of weeks, at least, to give, a 5-minute talk or whatever that I hope helps these guys in some way. So yeah, I'd love them to follow me.
Awesome. Well, yeah, go follow what Joe's doing. Show him some love. Follow up with him if you had questions about what he said. And Joe, thanks for the time. Thanks for pouring into my audience. Congratulations on all the continued success. And I'm just glad to see, again, one of the good guys in our industry doing well and doing good work. So appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Graham. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, have a good one.